not been built out for cable services. The contract requires the provider to build it out if there are 15 homes per mile. So I'm not sure we have too many of those, let alone at all in Newcastle. And if they are, they're probably already built out. But I suspect there's areas with less density that hasn't been built out and should be. I know way back when we were looking at this contract as a committee, we were started at 8, and I think we were trying to go down to even a smaller number. Of course, they're pushed back because they're saying it's not profitable for them to build out more with a smaller density, but they're serving a town that's not very densely populated. So if they wanted to build a town, it was our opinion that they should agree to a smaller density, certainly not 15 homes per mile. The next is the franchise fee, and I know there was some discussion over that last time. The federal statutes allowed us to collect up to 5% of a franchise fee. This current contract says that it would only require 3%. And if I remember, the hesitation of the board last time was because the provider has traditionally pass that through to the subscribers.
It's right on the bill, it says franchise fee.
That's right. So that is a corporate decision that they don't have to make, but they do. But just because they pass that through, I don't think we should miss the opportunity to get that extra 2% of how many other people are subscribing. And I know the number's dropping because of the other competing methods of delivering videos, but it's still some. And, I can say at least from the good neighborhood that anything to reduce our taxes would be very welcome because they're significant, of course.
But that's increasing my taxes.
So,
That then increases my tax because I'm now paying a higher franchise fee.
but that's your choice to use the service.
True,
So, yeah.
but wait, so it seems like you're saying then you want to perhaps push people out of cable? You're now asking those of us who have cable to subsidize everybody else in town who doesn't have, may or may not have cable by paying a higher fee so the town gets the money.
So if the provider chooses to pass that through, that's their business decision, and they run the risk of people cutting the cord, so to speak, and going elsewhere to do it. But it should be part of the understanding that if you're subscribing to cable, you got to accept that the cable company is passing through those things. The town shouldn't base their decisions based on the corporate decision to pass that through and inflict that pain on subscribers. Yeah, in my opinion, I think the subscribers have a way to deal with it. And there's other options there. I don't see that as a tax on the subscribers because that's something that the cable provider is inflicting on you, not the town. And again, it would be different if it was mandatory. So if the federal statute says that the cable companies have to pass that through, but it's strictly voluntary. And it is, the franchise fee is a payment for their right to, on an ongoing basis, to use the town's right of ways and public ways. We don't want to, in my opinion, give away the right to use those lines, a right which causes the cable company to make a lot of money off of the subscribers, even in a small town like Newcastle. They wouldn't be doing it if they weren't making a good profit. So I would advocate changing that to a 5% fee and pursue, that as the fee to pass. And then the last one is the PEG grant. And the PEG grant is, again, I think that was some discussion of, whether or not that would be passed through. It could be passed through, but again, it's not mandatory. I haven't seen back before I did cut the cable cord, that it was ever passed through. Typically, I believe it's not, because often it's a lump sum, basically the payment for the contract. And it's designed to make sure that we can have a channel to communicate with our government for um, the government and education and public service. So we do that through Lincoln County Television, and they're here broadcasting this meeting. So I would suggest that an appropriate PEG grant should be at least cover the cost of the service of Lincoln County Television being here broadcasting it. But there's also, I mean, a share of the infrastructure of that station should be supported at such a level that they could modernize whatever their equipment is. This is now, if this was a 10-year contract, you would probably demand a bigger PEG grant than you would if you had a 5-year contract, because you want to cover for that period of time and have the latest state of art materials. And that's what the contract calls for and allows towns to request. And matter of fact, the state contract statute, if you will, actually says that the provider must support a PEG grant to cover equipment to be able to have that channel there. So I would advocate for you to come up with some number that would at least cover the broadcast of your meetings and cover a portion of the station that is enough for sort of Newcastle's share of that station to be able to have a communication channel to the general public related to public service, education, and government. We shouldn't miss that opportunity. The franchise fee and the PEG grant is the company's payment for their right to use public ways and right of ways. If we do not collect the maximum franchise fee and the maximum PEG that we could get, we're giving away our value to the cable company that is making lots of money using that property. If some other company was doing that, we would probably have a problem with that. Those were some issues that the 4 issues I had. Again, the grant would be recovering costs of the PEG channel. And I guess I would ask, I know for your decision last time was for the town manager to send the draft to the cable company. I hope that's not done, because then if you decide to do something different, you'd have to claw that back and say, never mind, here's what we really propose. But if you haven't done that, hopefully you would look at it again. And I know it's big, it's 40 some odd pages. But there is some detail in there that really makes a difference, I think, to the community. And hope that you would make some changes. I did also see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so that looked like they were crossouts. It wasn't clear if those provisions were to be removed or if it was just some type of marking issue there. And then at least 3 places where data has to be added in. Looked like there were some choices that you had to take out some parental stuff that, for instance, it said 3% franchise fee, and then there's something that says you can do up to 5. Well, that wouldn't be in your final contract. there, so it would need to be cleaned up a little bit. So that's all I had on my mind for tonight. Thank you.
All right.
Well, I have more on my mind, but not about that.
Thank you. Anybody else with comments not on the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, moving on to presentation of special guests, Lincoln County EMA Hazard Mitigation Plan. Emma, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Recognize her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening. I am here as the Deputy Director of Lincoln County EMA. Over the last about year or so, our office, EMA, has been working with planning, local directors, critical infrastructure partners, special districts, municipalities, you name it, we've been working with them to update our Lincoln County Hazard Mitigation Plan. It's done every 5 years. Lincoln County has had one since 2016. So we have finished that project as of December 18th. We got FEMA approval pending adoption status on our second revision. So we absolutely crushed it. And we were doing all of this during a government shutdown. We're so thankful for FEMA and MEMA for really rallying and making sure that we get that feedback so that we're able to get this approval. And so our department is here to get adoption from you guys. By signing on to the hazard mitigation plan, municipalities become eligible for increased pre-disaster funding. So you may have heard of the BRIC grant, the Building Resilient and Critical Infrastructure grant, the SWIFT grant, flood mitigation assistance. Those are on a rolling basis, but because municipalities who are signed on to the hazard mitigation plan have participated in the year-long process, you're eligible for these increased funding opportunities. So it's not necessarily a guarantee, it's just kind of an extra foot in the door. Newcastle talked a lot about functional and access needs, mentioning that we have Newcastle has a lot of roads that have single access or dead end roads. And if windstorms knock down trees or lines, we have populations that are inaccessible. We also talked about, or Newcastle also talked about the impact of drought, what that has on agriculture as well as private wells. We are still in a pretty extreme drought, and that impact has been seen all across the county. And then Newcastle also mentioned wanting to increase community outreach and education, including neighbor check-ins, utilizing the Blue Eddy program, which you guys are almost over the finish line with. And then helping identify extra water resources for consuming, but also mentioning that is a challenge during droughts in the time of fighting fires. You guys are lucky that you do have quite a few hydrants, but having to rely on just a few dry wells does mean that you're relying on increased tanker activity during fires. And wildfire and drought are two of our hazards that we profiled. We also profiled flooding, so in Newcastle, coastal flooding, severe summer storms, so everything that you could think of for worst case scenario summer storm, as well as severe winter storms. So think of the storms that we've been having pretty recently with the wind, ice, significant amount of snow, that kind of stuff.
Questions?
No,
I have one. Is there any reason why we wouldn't do this?
Not that I can see.
if we wanted to develop our own
Yeah.
on our.
You absolutely can do that.
Yikes.
It's quite a large undertaking, and that's kind of why the county has taken that over. It's a multi-jurisdictional plan. It also allows us to work with our neighboring municipalities to get ideas off of. we hosted workshops every month. And that really allowed neighboring municipalities to work together and brainstorm, and we did have a lot of activity where and conversation where one municipality would say, oh, hey, we're working on this, or oh, this is, you know, a harebrained idea that we have, and another municipality saying, we have not even thought of that, but we love it. And so being able to bring that into their own municipality as well.
So
So,
question, or you, are you speaking as a county commissioner?
so, yes, now I'd like to speak as a county commissioner, if I may.
That's,
So
you get a different hat.
I don't know, anything to cover it up, thank you. I just want to say a couple things, is that I know that the Lincoln County Planning Commission and the EMA have been working really hard on this. And what it does in the end is that it makes us all safe, first and foremost. That's, to me, the biggest thing. The commissioners themselves at its last meeting approved a resolution approving the plan. And I think it really shows that nowadays, as we're talking more and more about collaboration, it's another evidence of us actually doing it and participating in all the planning and putting it together. And it will be really reflected when a disaster happens and we're all working together under the same plan. So I would encourage the passage of the resolution, and we would look forward to the other towns in the county doing the same.
But I'd also want to point out, the commission approved this plan on January 6th.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to point to is page 160 of the PDF. Has a handful of projects for Newcastle that would, you know, this report would allow us to then chase some of those grants to address many of these needs, hopefully many of these needs over the next few years.
The 2016 data, I assume, was when this was put together
Back in 2016.
in 2016, right?
Yep.
These came up as.
So fortunately, some of those have now been completed, but you can
Right.
see that there's plenty that have been deferred to lack of funds or are new to this list as of 2026. So that was a lot of the work that staff did to make sure that these are identified in the report, and hopefully will become more focused areas when we look for other resources to help us across these needs.
We treated the project list that Kevin's referring to as a targeted wish list. So that way we were able to put that on planning's radar. As I'm sure you guys are aware, our planning office does a lot of grant writing. And so they're always gonna have this in their back pocket for the next 5 years. If a grant opportunity pops up that may be aligned with somebody, municipalities, project list, that we can refer to that. And we can also say, hey, it's in our hazard mitigation plan. It's helping mitigate natural hazards. And so that's just one more criteria in the grant process to help with.
This must have taken a lot of hours. So a lot here. It's great.
County staff put a ton of time into it. There was a lot of, like, the local EMA directors involved and
Great.
other staff who were brought in at times. Extensive amount of work. I handed out boots. Right?
Yes, we did. Yes, our meetings.
You wouldn't?
What'd you say?
I handed out boots. I acquired a whole bunch of hazmat boots that the county was getting rid of from some other program that no longer exists. So I was trying to hand them out to all the folks at our meetings. They're hot pink.
Great.
Keeping this information.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Guys.
All right, is there any question?
I mean, it's great, thank you.
I know, what did we say?
Are we the first town you're getting approval from?
You're the first town.
Yeah.
All right, let's set a good standard here.
I'll move to adopt the Lincoln County 2026 hazard mitigation plan for the town of Newcastle.
Second it.
Okay. Discussion, further discussion, those in favor? Motion passes with 5 members. That's.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Good to
so
see
much.
you, Emma.
Great to see you again.
Thank them all for, that's so much work. that went
Yeah,
into
of course.
this.
And thank you to our local events. They put in a lot of work.
Not as much as you did.
So she's not leaving here without signatures.
Oh, right.
Select
board.
18 resolution stuff.
You're used to this when you go to the commissioner's office, right? Having to wait
Usually-
for everyone to sign.
Actually, I'm like a.
Oh, okay. Okay. But there's 5 of us, it's less efficient when it comes to
okay.
signatures. Sorry.
Last but not least.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I will get a
Thanks, Emma.
scan copy over to you.
Thanks.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night now.
Great, okay, moving on, item 6. Unfinished business, and we have some 3 committee appointments to address, starting with item 6A. CLC ambulance service. Looks like we had 3 interested. What would we call these?
Candidates.
Candidates. There we go.
Can I just take a moment to recognize the awesome work that Ellen McFarland did for us on the ambulance service
Absolutely.
for years and years and years and years.
And she's treasurer.
And she is, but she deserves to not be doing it. Thank you to her.
I just FYI, I was at their meeting tonight and I kind of did a survey around the room, looking at people. And of the 6 towns, I guess, that comprise the organization, 3 of the members are select board members. 1 is a budget committee member and another one is the code enforcement officer. And then there's our person. So just, that's the makeup of the group. It's there.
Good. Okay, so this came with recommendation, Angela Costenbader and
Which
Do we
means
wanna-
that whoever's on it needs to become part of town government too, right? Doesn't that seem like that's a requirement?
Logical. Well, I'll make a motion to appoint Angela Costenbader to the CLC Ambulance Service Board of Directors.
Second that.
good. Tom, was you?
Yeah, I will recuse myself from any
You might
further
know-
discussion or.
you might know this
or
person?
voting. Yeah, may know this person.
Yeah.
What's your relation?
She's my wife.
So you're gonna vote against it?
I'm not voting. No discussion of vote.
I will warn you, if she does it, there may be times when you will be meeting with the kids in the parking lot here to do a swap. Because those meetings are right before hours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay, any discussion on this?
no, it's just,
I'm-
just whoever does the job needs to be a vocal person in questioning, looking at the budget stuff and It's just part of the job of the board, because the board is who's in charge of the ambulance service.
when's the agreement up for renegotiation? Renew.
In first 27, I believe.
This, next.
Yeah, so we've
It'll
got
be
1 year
this
left.
August, it'll be this August that we'll start that discussion.
Right.
My other thought is that, whoever gets appointed, Angela, I assume is the nominee, does meet with myself and staff to help discuss this and bring the information back to this. I can't always make it, and I'm not sure any of you can always make it, but
I
having
generally
that
do.
voice, I mean, having another, just making sure there's a connection between
Yep.
this board and that
Yep.
representation is vital.
The communication's necessary.
And those are open meetings,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so, any of us could go as support for,
I've been going, I plan to
you
keep
know,
going too.
yeah. That's good, and thanks for doing that too.
It's just good to have that another person.
Yeah.
No, I want whoever Ellen in the past to get ganged up on.
Yeah, no.
Angela, I don't want her to get ganged up
Yeah.
on, so be supportive.
I just wanted, your recommendation at the bottom, I think it's bears reading, just that, the fact that we had 3 interested parties
Yeah.
is significant. The 2 that weren't chosen for this position, we should really reach out to them and see if there's another way that they might be able to,
Yeah.
offer their services to the town. This need volunteers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Thank you to all who stepped forward for that position.
Oh, it was nice that we don't have to drag somebody
Yes.
into it.
Yes.
Gotta ask.
Yeah. Super. Okay, there's no other discussion. Let's take a vote. All those in favor? Okay, motion passes 4 with 1 abstention.
They tried to say since Ellen was the treasurer, that whoever comes in has to be the treasurer.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not making any guarantees on that.
All right, the next committee appointment is
Terrible joke, something.
for the Fish Committee. And it looks like we're running a little light on this appointment, so.
Hmm?
We're running late on this one. There's no suggestions.
We need
Well,
to
only
put it out there.
because, what's that?
We need to put it out there.
Like I did hear, Roger Wilcox did call me today and said he's interested. So, but if the board would like, I could do the same process I did for CLC ambulances. Just reach out and see if there's members of the public. I'll have Roger apply that way, same,
Put it on the website, maybe on your distribution.
which is what I did for CLC, on the website, put it out through my distribution list.
Yep.
It's good that we at least have one person that's stepped forward, but probably makes sense to make sure that.
See if there's others.
This is procedure. It's good.
I guess the question is, would you just, when I have vacancies, would you like me to approach it that way? And just let you know that we have a vacancy and I've now posted it, rather than asking you if you want me to post it?
Yes,
I think that makes sense,
Great.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
your process, it's your appointments.
Yeah, I mean, unless we're gonna disband a committee for some reason, you would know that. Probably ahead of time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think it makes sense just to. Do the work before meeting, so. Okay, looks like no motion on this for tonight, so. We'll wait to see what comes about.
And the next one, I didn't take the approach of asking the public. This was by recommendation of our harbor officers.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, great. So, yep, so appointment of harbor master Whitney Lee. Yep,
I'll move to appointment, Whitney Lee as the Newcastle and Darmstadt Harbor Master as defined in the Joint Harbor Management Ordinance.
I'll second that.
great. Any discussion? Nope.
Just want to thank Eric for the years that he's put in.
Yeah,
everything that's cool.
absolutely, yeah. No, this is good. So Whitney will.
Yeah,
He's-
I think he's
he's
a
got
good
experience.
fit.
He's a good
very
fit, yeah,
experienced. He knows that.
absolutely.
So
He grew up on that water, so.
he sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion passes, 5 members. And moving on to item 7A, septic waste disposal facility agreement. And it's an annual agreement. Anything to understand or say about this?
It is just a requirement by law that we have to get rid of everyone's, when somebody has a pump out, it has to go somewhere. We don't have a facility. I'm pretty sure Great Salt Bay Sanitary District isn't ready to take that on. So it goes all the way, I think they're in.
Well, the company's in Rockland.
Um,
I think Bristol has it.
I mean, I'm to be all fully honest, I actually signed these contracts on my own in the past, but I realize like. Contracts are your responsibility to approve and authorize me to sign, so. I'm now bringing this one to you, but it is very much boilerplate. It's $2,300, that dollar amount hasn't changed in the last 5 years that I look back. So,
Hasn't changed in 20 years.
okay, I only look back 5 and then I get home.
Good. Motion to authorize.
So moved.
Second. Yep.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 5 members. It's, moving along, item 8, fiscal warrants, FY 26 AP warrant for $50,342.46.
Very good.
Smallest one of the year.
Yep.
Well, I'll move to approve the fiscal year 2026 12th AP warrant for $50,342.46.
Second. Any other discussion on this?
I just can't wait for those electricity bills to start.
They are down. That's significantly down from what it's been in the past.
Oh, good.
In fact, there are a couple bills in here, if you want to look, that are zeros.
Ooh, okay,
Beautiful.
that's fun.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Okay. Motion passes 5 members and let's see, town manager report, item number 9. And we've got some detail in this report, so this may take this may take more time than our regular meeting, so Kevin, why don't you start on this?
Yeah, there's quite a bit in here and, you know, like your agenda was light for the most part, so I thought I'd overload it with this. It can be here till 9. I worked on putting together an advisory team with Michael, our planner. Because after we've met and talked about Mills Road, we had our presentation back in early December. It was kind of unclear about what our next steps were. So my intent was to pull together an advisory team. It includes John Egan from Genesis Fund, David Pio, who's a developer out of Rockland, his business partner Evan was a civil engineer. I had Alan Gibson from GoLogic was there, and a party of 3 who are a network I've connected to outside of Newcastle or Midcoast, Maine. Rob Leonard, who's in Virginia, Chris Muller from North Carolina, and Lisa Whited, who's actually important to me. And they're doing these very similar types of projects across the country. So it's just a network I've tapped into. And we met last Monday, spent about 2.5 hours between, it was a hybrid meeting, so a few of us here and a few of us on Zoom. And some of the things that really came out of that were focusing in a little bit on, you know, hosting some public input sessions about what we want to get out of this. You know, the questions kept coming up, well, what is the community's role in what gets approved as part of this project? And what I interpreted that as is, if we want to have an interconnectivity road there, one, that lane is going to be narrower than what our road ordinance currently says. We're going to have to make modifications to that. Michael's been working a bit on figuring out how that might fit into our current zoning. And then acceptance of that road. If, you know, if the numbers work in terms of the density to pay for that road. So there are, and you know, I firmly believe that we need to be addressing some of those areas I talked about for housing. Which is, you know, the first responders, the teachers, the nurses, the child care providers. I've reached out to those providers in our area to find out how much are those staff making. And when you know, put it to the salary, the 2,080 hours a year. It's the range from like, I wanna say $45,000 to $60,000 a year. That's 80% of AMI. So you're not, this. Unfortunately, that's where, if we're gonna try to get those,
Isn't gonna fly.
right, and so we need to figure out a way to help, bring that type of housing to Newcastle so that the people who serve us, so we can serve the people who serve us. That's my firm belief, and I also, where I see the most opportunity for grant funding to help offset the cost of this is through energy efficiency. So if we do a passive house project, I can probably get some large foundation grants to help offset that cost. The difference between what you would build with sticks on site versus what you might bring in through volumetric or panelized. Similar to what has been built on site at Allen Mills Road already. So as I think about those and if you can save on energy efficiency, those costs aren't passed on to tenants. So you can find some savings and build equity that way. So those are things I think about, but I also want, I want greater input from you and I want greater input potentially from the public to say, yes, we do want these things for our housing needs projects. I also want to hear what else am I missing? What are the other housing types we're missing? And it might not be for this project, but as we try to work on our larger context of how we address the housing needs in downtown, you know, other sites, and I think about if and when town hall moves maybe to here. That site is better, has a better location sitting in our tax roll than it does sitting off the tax roll. The value there is much, much greater. So that's that broader context piece to this. Michael is working on exploring zoning ordinances for our June meeting. That has to come to you in a quick time frame, so that's April. I also, members of the advisory team are for no additional expense, identifying and looking at some of the plans of our concept drawings and some of their own, thinking about what would it cost to actually build a project there. So we can actually understand the financial impacts and financial cost to actually do something there, and what the barriers are, so we can look to address those barriers. And then lastly, working with our attorney, we figured out how to prioritize our housing to serve those needs. So it's not excluding others, it's prioritizing those first and making them available to those first before opening it up to others. And he's drafted something for us, but I'm not ready to unload it all on you. I just want you to be aware that something we've been working on. It's just the timing is tough between now and April. I want to be able to present something to you well before that and have some community input at some point to share about what we're trying to do here. Just commitment of time is what this is. And then like that, there's another big project coming up. The Public Works Committee is meeting again tomorrow at 6. We've been putting everything on the Yamascotta webpage. Because he has a little more robust of a website than we do for that information. And then the agenda will be a continuation of the 15th from December 15th with updates, and then also developing some meeting rules for the group, as we got pretty sidelined from getting our agenda done before. So we'll be trying to work through that. All of the links within that agenda are live and fluid. So every time you go back in, there might be updates, might be change. So until that's solidified and brought to you, that's how the committee is working, is chugging away at this.
Can you pause just for a second?
Yeah,
Because I want to return to the first item, the advisory team.
sure.
And I just feel like we skipped over that, or you went through it quickly, but I just I also heard that maybe you're looking for input, so,
Oh, I am.
I'm not sure if that's
We could
should
pause
be
enough.
part of our discussion, in TM report, or, how we should approach this, when and how is the best way to give you, select board input.
Yeah, I think that the question of the board is that I don't know if I just discuss it as part of TM report or I bring it to you the next meeting. I would like to try to resolve this by the time we have our next meeting. How much effort needs to go into the public outreach piece? And that's the area where I would then say, I'm gonna go ask for help outside of our staff to do that public outreach piece, the facilitation piece. And I can go big, or I can, ask one of our neighboring entities to assist with some of those facilitated conversations.
I mean, Denver Scotta.
No, Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission.
Okay, so question on the outreach, what do you think that looks like?
Well, so I believe your comprehensive plan is really powerful, and I think that that needs to be celebrated more than it has been. Like, it got done, everyone said, whew, what a lift, it's done. And I've tried to incorporate it into some of our conversations when we're talking about our priorities. But there are elements of in there that really stand out for what this project could mean. Right, so how do we extract those important components of it? Talk about what a project like this would, how that project would add value both from the tax base, but also just stabilizing and helping our community fill positions that are otherwise unfilled. And so amplifying, I'm trying to figure out how do I engage the public so that they're helping to amplify that, so that when we are coming to them to say we need to make a road and ordinance change, it doesn't fall flat, it fails, so that's, I think where my mind is going with this, but I kind of want to know, like, the proposal I have from Lisa, who's the facilitator in Portland, I asked her, give me a proposal of what this would be. And she says, well, I would do 3 public meetings and I would do 3 outreach, or three in-person meetings, and I would do 3 virtual meetings, so you can include people at different times, at different days. And so it's pretty robust and it will require some time, a time commitment for that, but. It almost seems like, oh, we're revising our comprehensive plan already? No, we're looking at what we have and trying to engage with it.
It's almost time to revise it.
Unfortunately, it is. I'm not ready to go there today, but
So I feel like there's 2 things, there's this big picture item, which is like, how do we solve, how do we address some of these issues? Then you have this property on Mills Road that the town now owns, and it's got it's got an objective on how to utilize that property through grant, through survey work, through some preliminary design work already. So I feel like that's got a pretty clear objective. And I feel like, of course, it's gotta go through public hearing, especially if there's gonna be roads created. So you've got that process with that property. In order to do anything, there's a whole process for that, right? And that includes the town as part of that process. There's also a separate issue, which is changing zoning if in fact there's a reason to do it, to make District 5 I guess more amenable to these types of projects. I think that's a separate issue. And then, so maybe it's the third issue, which is the big picture, which is this sort of community engagement on these big, discussion about the big picture items. But are they all together? I don't know. I'm just raising the question, and I just don't want the community to be confused about what a outreach is, whether it's specific to, because we kind of have a path already on that property. It's not like we can make it into an amusement park, we've got a path on that. So I'm not sure what that outreach does specifically for that project. But generally, I think it's, it's a great idea to, engage the community and the bigger picture. How do we address it, so. Some
The
thoughts.
bigger picture, but also how that fits into the bigger picture,
Right,
specifically that project does. Get into it. No, we can get people showing up at meetings. About it.
Well, we were just talking about how, now all the Christmas and holiday stuff is done, everyone's got it, like, what else do I have to do on my agenda? I don't know,
I mean, we've gotten
come
audience.
to a town meeting, come to a
Meeting.
community meeting about. Housing in downtown Newcastle.
Seems like if we have community buy-in, sort of sub-ground level, as we're really just, I mean, yes, we know that this needs to address first responder. Because that's what the grant stipulates, so. We have that framework for that project, so if we can get. Public buy-in on whatever it is that we end up doing there, then if we do need to ask for. Change or whatever we need to ask for, we're more likely to get it
Mhm.
and less likely to get pushback on. So maybe it's, we. Narrow down what we're thinking about doing there, is that, are we putting a road through or whatever it is that we sort of think we want, and then. Present that. To the public and say, is this something that. Ask if that's something that people would actually approve of. I don't know. If that's the kind of. Public presentation I wanna do at this point, or is it more structured?
Well, it's, the conversation would be structured and Lisa has talked me through some of what would think about in terms of how to address this and bring it in, but. Her argument is once you put pictures out there, everybody believes it's a done deal.
Right.
Well, we've already put pictures out there, but I don't think this conversation needs to be about those pictures. This conversation can be about the need for housing and showing them the data. I already have a lot of the data. Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission gave me even more. County did a housing needs assessment, so it's just refreshing that information, presenting it, and then gathering additional feedback about hearing from the public to say, I might be a resident who lives in town, I'm widowed. My kids are out of the area, I got 4 bedrooms, I don't need 4 bedrooms, but I wanna stay in Newcastle. But I can't find anything else to move into. If I know that there's gonna be 2 bedrooms, so if my kids do come visit, they have a bed to sleep on. I'd be willing to move into a 2-bedroom and make my 4-bedroom home available to that family of 4. So. Like, those are the kind of conversations I kind of want to have with the public to understand where the need is. And then, while this project that we have isn't tied to that conversation, the conversations with the public don't necessarily amend the project. But there's at least buy-in for understanding why this project is happening and excitement for when the next project is ready to go. I only point to town hall because I know that that's one we can address in the next few years. So it's sort of lining that up, teeing it up so that when there are more opportunities for housing development in downtown. There's another example of this. Lincoln County has a grant right now that I owe some information for. To consider expansion of sewer and water. And where would that go in downtown Newcastle? I have ideas about where that should go. And what kind of density development do you wanna see where that happens? And I don't wanna develop it, or I don't wanna come up with a process, put it out there and say, alright, go build. And then the one project that's done, and then the community's saying, why did this happen? Why weren't we involved? And that's what I most fear, is that we do a project and then never again. I'd rather have the buy-in early and try to solve that now while we're focused on our project, so that people are excited about the project we're doing and are excited about the next project, are involved in that process of had some input in terms of what it looks like and where it goes.
I think that's a great approach. I guess what I was thinking, you know, in the. What I was thinking is we don't want this to be like a charrette on that property.
So,
It's not like we put up whiteboards and we're like, okay, what can we do over here? What can we do there? Because I think, honestly, I think we're way beyond that. Just because we've got such a narrow path now, what we have to do with that problem, according to grant money. So I think it's two separate things, and I think this, using that as an example of something we can do is, I think, right on. And then I think the idea of talking about the bigger picture, using that as a sample is again right on. I think that makes sense. So yeah, I do wonder if you need 3 meetings to do 3
Or
outreach.
6.
Yeah,
6 maybe.
well, I mean, it's 6, well,
Yeah.
well staged in place over the course of the next 2 years, but you know, I'm just wondering, do we need like 3 rapid fire outreach meetings? I think outreach is, I think it's just the way that we have to propose questions and get feedback and then understand and educate. I think that's what it's all about, so. It just, yeah, we just wonder what the objective is of these outreach. I think that's gotta be defined.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely a couple of them during different times of the day and live, maybe try one virtual, but I can't imagine 6 of them. We're not big city. We're little.
So fun fact. In spring 2021. We had housing, an ad hoc housing committee here. To discuss housing, even before it was
I think,
a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that like, hey, we were first. I mean to say like, we were talking about it, we've been talking about this. This has been an ongoing conversation. And thankfully, everybody is talking about it at different levels, right up through, you know, national, you know, discourse. But my thought at the beginning, when we first had the first meeting was, I don't know what this is gonna result in. It was, you know, maybe a group of 3 or 4 people, and we had some developers show up and just kind of talk to us, because we didn't know how to grapple with what we were seeing in this town locally. And, you know, my thought right from the get-go is, if we're not talking about it, there's no chance we're gonna solve it. Because we have to have a conversation in order to figure out what the problem is and then solve it, so. Let's just have a conversation about it. Outreach is good.
We have a town planner because of that conversation.
That's right.
he has been involved in every step of this, trying to figure this out. So I'm grateful that you guys put the financing behind that and are supporting it. I will come to you next meeting with a proposal. I mean, we have some left in that fund. I still have the 12-ish thousand that are sitting in planning for additional help. And I think right now for this year, having some help with facilitation and or some of the site development is probably maybe the best use of those resources. Given my conversations with Michael about what we have left to try to get done between now and June. Okay. Skip over Public Works Committee again. Great Salt Bay Sanitary District, another position where there's a new appointment. Now they're a quasi municipal government. They have an election process. Last year, Louis Rector had been elected. He has now moved out of Newcastle. So therefore, their board, through John Gallagher, informed me that they have now appointed Angela White to serve until the next election for June 2026. So they're going to appoint Angela at their next meeting, and then you'll also affirm her as that in that role.
So we will need somebody to run
Yep.
for that position
Okay.
in June.
Either Angela and or someone else who's interested, will inform we'll inform you and the public about when papers will be pulled for June.
And their preference is to have somebody who's actually served by the Salt Bay Sanitary District.
That is preferences.
It's
But
elected,
not
they
required.
they don't get preferences.
They don't-
An elected
yeah.
position.
Yes, it is.
But it is
Just saying. I think-
representation from Newcastle.
Yeah,
And it does not preclude you from having to be on the line.
no, it's not.
So we're starting budget season. If you want a budget book, let me know. A physical one, there'll be electronic ones, but if you want a physical one as a member of the board, I've also informed the finance committee. I asked that too. And then this is a big one that came up.
Big-
Transfer station meeting happened last Thursday. So Tor, thank you for attending that with me and keeping me from losing my top. Andy Dorr from Damascata was there and let's see, Bo. John,
Bo Marsh.
Bo Marsh, thank you.
Select board member.
Select board member in Bremen was also there from representing the 3 other communities who are not members of the Council of Government that's run by Damascata, or sorry, Noblesboro and Jefferson. But so we were in attendance to their discussion of their budget meeting. We heard from their manager, their transfer station manager about many of the capital needs that they have. And some of the challenges they face. The budget doesn't reflect much of that other than replacing a few of the large dumpsters. So they are putting some money towards replacing a few of those.
Not the compactors.
No. In fact, the compactors didn't even come up as part of the conversation, which I was surprised. But what I did do is after they shared the visual of that breakdown of who's paying what next year, and they haven't modified the percentages this year, they just increased it across the board. I did share a document with another approach, which looked at their Council of Government agreement, which is based on the last census population and each year's state valuation. So they're supposed to review that every year and make the modifications for their 2 member communities, and then make up a number for all the other towns that wanna throw their trash there. I argued that since our other 3 towns have been essentially subsidizing them, maybe it's time that we become one council of governments of all 5 communities. And it'd be a fair share based on that same formula agreement, and that every community would have an equal number of votes to approve the budget and divide the cost of the operation and capital needs across the 5 communities. My biggest concern right now is they have not put money behind the capital needs. And just based on what we've heard from the manager, Andy penciled it about $350,000 worth of needs at the transfer station now. So I didn't get a lot of support from the members until I said I would help write a CDS grant to, reconfigure and reconsider the future growth of that site. Because they do have about, do you remember how many acres? Was it 34?
34 or something.
34 acres on the site. So,
Less than 5,
what's that?
they're using less than 5.
Yes, so there is a great opportunity to reconfigure that site and plan better for its use. I mean, I've heard complaints about trash pileups, that it's more about, their ability to get dumpsters in and out. And having dumpsters on reserve to move them in and out, than it is about the compactor and its breakdown times. So it's more about just the logistics of how that is currently set up. And the improvements that were made, if some improvements were made there, how much better it could be. So they're willing to now, at least sit down and have a conversation about maybe it is time to revamp their system. And consider involving other communities as part of their council of governments. I don't know where that'll go, but it doesn't affect this budget. This budget is another roughly $16,000 increase for, I'm sorry,
It's 11% in it.
yeah, so it is an increase of 16.8,
Yeah.
but that's year to year. Now, I also, when you see the budget in a couple of weeks, it'll be a little higher than that because we pay on our fiscal year. So I pay this next half of this year, I'm paying that 8,000 more.
Yeah.
And then next year, so I've factored in that going forward, which we haven't done in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I think the manager's report, the manager of the facility there. It was reassuring to hear that he listed out all the things that are, to me, obvious when every time you go to the transfer facility. You know, like the the apron in front of the dumpsters that is kind of sinking, it's like the asphalt's breaking apart. You know, like the ditch swale that keeps flooding, every time it rains, and a lot of things.
The excavators and
The excavation,
worst possible shape.
that's just a maintenance nightmare, so. I mean, I think they know it, so a couple of things that I need from this is. They said they're afraid to ask for more money because they're shy about asking people in towns to raise their taxes. Okay, take it for what it's worth. I was kind of curious too about how they perceive this, so. They were up front, we own this is our facility, we own this, it's in our town. So basically, we have to do what they want us to do. So that was pretty clearly stated, I think. So I think the idea, the good news is we left with the idea that we're gonna have a workshop, a chance to talk to them and discuss these points. I think they received Kevin's spreadsheet and math. And are willing to look at it, and then I think there was follow-up, and they're willing to, bring it to the select board and discuss it. I jotted down some numbers here. It's really, so Bremen, if you change it to the proposed sort of the proposed equation that you presented for everybody. Bremen is kind of a wash, they're at the same no matter what. It really falls to just the inequities between Dummerstott and Newcastle and Jefferson. And it's significant.
In the last 5 years, it's about $300,000.
So over 300,000. So for example, the proposed budget this year for Jefferson is $138,000. This is what they would contribute. $138,000. If we go to the Council of Governments program or that equation, their contribution jumps to $178,000. So that would be an equity of $40,000 that they would owe under the new program. Demorskata, for example, their contribution is $202,000 for this proposed year. If we changed it so it was equitable according to the Council of Governments, their number would drop to $157,000 for a difference of about $44,000 to their credit. Newcastle, we're on the hook right now for $166,000. So under the Council of Governments, if it were accepted, that would bring us down to $122,000 or a credit of $43,000 reduction to this year's budget. Nobleboro, their number is $88,000 in contributions. They would jump to $136,000 or a $45,000 increase. So you're asking, so there's some big numbers here that are a shift. That's the rub. That's gonna be a tough conversation moving forward.
And the reason the carrot I put in there was, by doing so, with a CDS grant. And helping to offset this, we're taking care of the improvements that are desperately needed there. the maintenance that needs to be taken care of there, and then all of the facility efficiencies and improvements that can actually bring costs down. So it might not be that high when all is said and done, and you have a newer facility with more support from all 5 communities rather than us being stuck in a position where we just have to pay a bill that we're not necessarily happy with.
The question I have though too is, so their idea is they invested, it was their risk from the get-go. It's their property, they put out the capital to build this facility. No lower on Jefferson. Therefore they own it. So the question is, so as Newcastle, Denver Scott and Bremen sort of contracted with them to put the trash there, they should have created some kind of lease agreement or some kind of capital line. So my question now is, if we contribute to the capital improvements of this facility, we're contributing to capital improvements of something they own. So, it doesn't, again, it's one of those, I think it's a big, I think it's another bone that can be a contention is how do we get ownership in something that we're contributing capital improvement to? So, that's another complication to this whole process.
Yeah, you're not expected to put new tires on it.
Exactly, yeah, or rent a house and put an addition on for a bathroom that you need.
Right.
Yeah, right. That. Maintenance items that's in their expense budget. That kind of makes sense. It's, if we're gonna expand the dumpster apron, if they're gonna build another building or some other way to manage things, or reconfigure the whole lot, that's capital investment. We gotta know how we're contributing to that.
But in reality, because they've been charging us a lot more money than our fair share since we've been in there, we have been reimbursing them for their capital outlay.
Yeah, but you can't point a number, you can't point to that part of the equation. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
No, instead of investing their share and putting it in a savings account for the future capital needs, they've just reduced the taxes for their residents.
Right, for their residents,
Artificially low.
right, but that's still us paying more than our fair share, so we've been
How old is that facility?
reimbursing them.
No idea. 20 years
Do you guys
at
remember?
least.
It's gotta be more than 20 years.
At least.
Remember when that was built? I mean, I know I've been going there since I was 18.
So go ahead and date yourself.
Yeah,
10 years.
yeah, at least, it's gonna be at least 10 years old.
Anyway. No,
It's probably late 90s, mid-90s.
Yeah.
That's what I always say.
Yeah, so call it
30,
Going on 30.
30 years old, isn't that, I mean,
So that,
appreciation wise,
that's the question is,
it's pretty fully depreciated, isn't it?
to the tune of $43,000 this year, we're contributing to
right,
some kind of hidden fee.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So nothing solved other than our increase for your tax for budget for next year already noticed. But I do hope that there's follow-up conversations and a solution that might be agreeable to all communities. Maybe,
we're further ahead than we were a year ago.
that's true.
At least the conversations.
Yeah,
It was a good, it ended as a good conversation.
Yeah, I did on a positive note.
It was a positive note, so. We'll see.
And Richard Powell already reached out to me this morning and said, you've twisted some of the numbers, so they're fixed on that document that I now have access to, but. So he's at least looking and he wants to have the conversation, so it's exciting.
Question, not to throw a wrench in the positive note, but does the town have alternatives? Is Booth Bay an option?
Yes, we do, but I think the challenge is informing all of the residents in Newcastle that you now have to go down to Booth Bay to throw your trash out. Or Newcastle or Bristol or wherever, one of the other facilities.
I don't think Bristol would have us.
No, I don't think so either, but I mean, I just know that there is one there.
Yes,
So
there
it's a matter of going and asking. Can we come to you and how much will it cost? And then it's a matter of informing all the residents that you can't go over there. It is. Its location is, I think, the
Clear.
easiest for
Yeah.
most.
Yeah.
Sure, just,
Yeah, no, we do have other options. It's limited, but. Our other option is do it ourselves, and that came up
Build our
as part of the conversation too.
Yeah, they actually mentioned that, you know, well, if this doesn't work out, Denver Scott and Newcastle, they could go do their own thing, and then where would we be? So they understand,
okay, good, yeah, okay.
they understand that the other side of the axe on this too. And my comment to them was, we're not looking for anybody to take a hit here. We want to be equitably fair to everybody. So it may or may not be a better deal to go to Booth Bay. That's one way, as long as it's a fair deal. It could be a fair deal at Demerscata, I mean, in Jefferson, Newcastle, at Nobleboro, Jefferson. And
But I'm not the only one who does that.
you know, that's,
Yes,
but let's put all the numbers, let's have the equation fair. Let's make sure, and if they're looking for some kind of lease agreement or capital investment for. You know, I think we paid our share beyond what we should have for the last 25 years, personally, or 30 years.
Yeah.
I think we're good there, but if we move forward and we're putting capital into this place. I think we need to understand how that's absolutely, how that's working out, yeah.
Oh, good. Great.
I can move on.
Yeah.
Alright. I said 7:52 to Peter, here we are.
That's okay.
Alright, solar panels and battery backup system, I've submitted the pre-registration application. I can tell you now, we've spent about $110,000. And between the grant from the state for about $45,000 for the battery backup. And the 33,000 we would get from the elective pay, direct pay. That's what this is, that's what the application was for, of IRS. The town will have put in, contributed about $33,000 ourselves, so about 30% of it from the town. And 70% of it from state and federal funding, so. I'm very hopeful that comes in, really good payoff, I think. So that initial 70,000 that was allocated for this project back at the town meeting in 2024. When this all settles, that money will fall back to the undesignated fund balance unless otherwise requested and then approved at a town meeting.
That would be nice to get.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm very hopeful. The timing worked based on, you know, some of the defunding of things. We're still allowed to acquire this. And then the community, I added this one since then, the community action grant revisions, because what we put in for the grant for the batteries, the battery costs were a little lower. So I have about $14,000 I'm moving to the battery lending program to purchase shelving and some equipment to help carry them. They are not super light. So I'm looking to acquire some like roller bags that they can go in and cables and shelving, just put them in and
Where?
shelving, they'd be in here, they'd be locked. We did get cameras, so I will hopefully protect them. A couple of them are going in our town office, and I'll save a few to see if the library will also serve as a lender for these batteries for us. So it's on the to-do, and part of that is also purchasing a burner phone that will serve as whoever's responsible for emergency calls. So the way the program's gonna work is, one, you have to sign a waiver, and in that waiver includes, you've had the training on how to use these. So you have to have those in place for you to get access to it. Goal is, you see that there's a storm coming, you call, you say you want a battery, or you're gonna come pick up a battery. You do it during regular business hours for town office to handle. In an emergency, those residents would have access to the phone number, they could call, And we work to find a volunteer to deliver the battery if need be, so. That's, I think, how the program's generally gonna run, and I'll have more of that mapped out once I know I got approval to spend money to finish these last pieces of it. And then, and like a Lynch Road, I keep this on here. That's still down, it's being worked on, and ready for those federal funds to come through.
Someday.
That's what I got.
Great, thank you, Kevin.
Oh, did you see the new letterhead?
Yeah, noticed
It
that.
looks lovely.
Yes, so we will continue to use this new letterhead, so if you have correspondence you'd like to send, we'll get you. This select board letterhead.
Okay, just to mention, future agenda items are dedications and recognitions policy. And item 11 is executive session, so motion to move into executive session under Title 1, Section 405. .6.d, consultation with attorney.
Second.
Great. All those in favor? Great, bye. Numbers, thanks.
Volunteer for the.
Just
No, if you have any questions.
Absolutely.
Okay.